I'd like to call this meeting to order. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody to the December the 14th, 2021 meeting. This, unless something comes up, will be the last meeting of the year for us. We'll appreciate all the people that's tuning in today and all the people that are here. Does any member of council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regards to any item on the agenda? If so, please state at this time. Mike?
No, sir.
Jamie?
No.
John?
No.
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 Tom? Thank you. Moving on. Amendment and approval of the draft agenda. Does anybody have anything that needs to be changed or added? Go ahead, John.
I'd like to make a change. I'd like to move the public comments up ahead of presentations, and then have presentations be the first order of business so that we can make decisions if appropriate on any of the thing in the presentations.
Anyone else? Nope. Do I have a motion to change this and approve the draft agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on, council discussion. Does any member of council have anything here?
I
Go ahead, John.
just
Go ahead,
like
Tom.
to say a couple
Charlie.
things. I want to, here we are, close to Christmas, and I want to thank the Public Works Department for the great job they did putting the lights on the Christmas trees and putting the reindeer up in the roundabout. I want to thank Sunset Vision and the Committee to Honor America's Veterans for putting the lights up on the rope fence in the town park and in the lights in the Veterans Memorial. Looks great. Thank you for everybody involved.
Any other member of council got anything?
Just on behalf of all the council, we hope everybody has a happy holiday season, happy new year, and a safe holidays.
Anyone else? Nope. All right, moving on to public comments. Do we have any public comments at this time? All right, moving on to new business. You gonna do the proclamation first, or you want to do? I think he said to do this first. So go ahead.
Yeah.
You will. Thank you, Paul.
All right, good morning and thank you. 2021 Beach Patrol Review. We delayed this a few weeks, but here we are. It seems like the beach season was a long time ago, but it really wasn't. And 2022 will be before us in no time, and we're already starting to prepare for it. So lots of pictures in this slide, and I know council's had a chance to look at it all and review some things. So I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. And I do ask if you have a question or something pops up, I may be hitting on that later in the presentation. So I'll make a note of it and make sure I cover it, but to keep things kind of moving. Deputy Chief Adams, Deputy Chief Childers are sitting here behind me for some institutional knowledge and a combined 38 years of experience in Sunset Beach and on the beach strand. So they've been ordered to throw things at me if I forget to say something or say something out of line. So they're here for support, and if I need them or if we have questions that they can add some insight into as well. But so we'll get started, and this should follow right along with the presentation in the packet that you all have. Alan, what's going on with that slide? All right, the first slide, and really this is a summary of what we have currently as far as public information in the town, and it includes at the beach accesses. I've given out brochures on shading device ordinances and those were a big help passing out to folks on the beach to help them with the ordinances. Rip current warning flag systems on the UTVs, the water safety brochure we passed out on the beach strand, the different chips with QR codes about rip current safety, and we have another new one that I passed out for you guys to get a sneak peek of, but that has a QR code on it linked to the National Weather Service rip current warning system, or the website for the daily report. Some different koozies, and of course social media. We're putting a lot of information out about the beach strand, hazards, safety initiatives, and so forth. So that is a big part of what we do to try to prevent and prevent rip current emergencies and other hazards on the beach, and jellyfish stings and so forth. You can see in the first part of the packet the data, and I'm not going to read through all the data specifically from 2021, but it kind of shows a lot of what we did, the different responses, everything from jellyfish stings to cabanas to EMS calls, water rescues, and the presentation is going to highlight a few of those things. And if you have specific questions on that data, I can certainly answer them along the way, or I might cover a lot of it this morning. The next slide's the historical beach patrol area that we have patrolled for years prior to even my arrival in Sunset Beach. Essentially, there's a trash can pole past 40th Street a little ways, and that delineates where beach patrollers stop as far as enforcement, just so there's a landmark. And then also on the east end, there is another trash can pole markers down at that end that gives the beach patrollers a specific target to enforce town ordinances at. All right, I passed this flyer out on this slide too for everybody. Obviously, with a couple of years ago when we started buying the John Deere Gators, they're holding up better on the beach. We're getting 3 years out of them. We're rotating them on a capital plan to keep them up to date, running well, and those are doing very well. We just had 2 new ones arrive that were approved in the last budget, so they're going to get upfitted with lights and some other equipment, and they'll be ready for the 2022 season. So we're on track with that. Several years ago, we also added the flags that are color coded, and they follow what the National Weather Service says for the rip current forecast for the day in Sunset Beach. And a lot of that data I included in the report, information from 2020 from the National Weather Service and how they're getting all their data and putting it out. And a big part of the data that comes from the National Weather Service in these forecasts are the National Weather Service calling our beach patrollers every morning at 10 a.m. and again in the early afternoon to talk to them about what they're seeing as far as longshore currents, rip currents, any rescues, wave heights, and so forth. And then the Weather Service takes their data they're getting from buoys and weather conditions, come up with what forecast, and we follow exactly what they say. The only time we've changed the flags in opposition to what the Weather Service has said, if they're saying it's a yellow day, several times we've seen wave heights, rip currents, rescues, and we make it red. So we'll make it a little bit, we'll go up to the next level. If current conditions in Sunset Beach are a little bit different than what they're seeing. Just a picture of a couple of the beach patrollers, and we can't thank these folks enough. They're seasonal employees and spending a lot of time on the beach, dealing with a lot of challenges, issues, ordinances, rescues, EMS related things, being good stewards of the town, and really oftentimes like cruise ship stewardesses. When folks come on vacation, these are some of the people they see most often to answer their questions on the beach strand. So they do an excellent job for us, and we can't thank them enough.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
what kind of training do the volunteers get? When they sign up, what is their training before they go out on the beach?
So the seasonal employees, and the last 3 years, we've had a good number of them coming back year after year. So obviously increased training, but initially they're getting an 8-hour day or more with Deputy Chief Adams. And in the past, we've had not only the police chief come in, but somebody from the National Weather Service come in. And it's a day long of training in the classroom, understanding the ordinances, understanding our standard operating procedures, and really learning the whole system, talking about the UTVs, doing a driving course with the UTVs, first aid and CPR as a minimum, that type of training. And then obviously there's some different variables of trained folks. Some are EMTs or firefighters, have a rescue background, some nurses, also a couple paramedics. So depending on what they're bringing to the organization already, kind of depends on that. But then in-service training throughout the year and different things on the beach and so forth. So
Thank you.
one thing we started doing this year was putting the jet ski out near the pier every morning, taking it out at every evening. And really, Deputy Chief Adams, Deputy Chief Childers, they talked about this before, and this year we really did it. We made a lane with some cones, and this allows us to have the jet ski on the strand instead of coming from the firehouse, just to improve response time. Depending on who's out on the strand, the jet ski's there. We can push it in and launch it much quicker than coming from across the bridge. So our plan is to continue having the jet ski out there as much as we can every day. And go ahead.
Does this require bringing an operator from the fire department to come out? Or do we have any of the beach patrol trained
Yes.
who can handle this jet ski?
So there's variables depending on the day. And some of the things we're going to talk about later are hopefully going to improve this. But there are times when the seasonal beach patrollers, they don't have the training to operate the jet ski. Depending on who's working out there, if Deputy Chief Adams is out there or myself or Deputy Chief Childers. But bare minimum, having it out there every day improves speed, even if the guy's got to come from the firehouse to deploy it and operate it. So we're trying to set it up where there's operators for it all the time out on the strand, but there are some historical variables that we're still working on.
Yep. Thank you.
Chief,
Go ahead.
so is Sunset Beach unique in having the jet ski, or is that something that is common throughout all the coastal communities?
I can't speak for all the coastal communities. Ocean Isle Beach Fire Department does have a jet ski. They don't have it on the beach all the time.
Mhm.
And unless you guys know any. So, yeah, there a lot of the things.
Somewhat unique then.
A lot of the things that we're doing are somewhat unique to the area, and some of the things we're doing with the National Weather Service and the rip current forecasting and even the life rings. I know that they're one of the nonprofits is trying to get that to take off in other areas as well. So there are some unique things, but also similarities. The next slide, Memorial Day weekend, there's a couple pictures looking east and west from the pier. obviously Memorial Day weekend's the unofficial kickoff to the summer, and it was pretty busy, and we knew we were going to be busy all summer starting Memorial Day. All right, next couple slides, and I think for the most part, except for Mr. Hargraves, everybody was informed about different cabana events and windstorm events and some of those challenges throughout the year. I tried to pass that information along to all of you, but you got a couple pictures in here as we talk about cabanas and some of the challenges to give you an idea of what we saw. But that first event was June 10th, and then on June 14th, we had a pet chicken on the beach, which didn't follow the ordinances, so we had to escort the chicken off the beach. But it's one of those things that sometimes you never know what the day's going to bring and what you see on the beach strand.
Was it chicken on a leash?
Nope.
Another violation there?
Yeah. So.
Did we find the owner of the chicken?
All right, June 15th, we had another pretty significant wind event that damaged a lot of cabanas. And this was one that we started talking to the cabana vendors and trying to give them as much warning. If we saw a couple of cabanas flying, Deputy Chief Adams would make phone calls or we'd send text messages so hopefully the vendors could come down and help us get some down. And they were great. Stuff like this, they lost money. And they helped us clean it up. Public Works, we utilized the dump trailer and personnel from Public Works and a lot of us to try to clean this up as quick as possible. And so we'll talk about a few more things with cabanas and the ordinance regulations in a little bit. But these things flew over the dunes everywhere across the beach strand. So of course, one of our biggest concerns is the safety of people. We saw many more cabanas fly like this than an occasional umbrella, but the cabana flying is a bit of a cause for concern, and we want to see what other options we can do to try to prevent that moving forward. For some reason, through the month of June, several wind events ripped through and kind of unpredictable. One of them, I know there was a storm front coming through that came through pretty quick and caused us a bunch of cabanas all over. So we'll talk more about those in a little bit. This next picture, July 3rd, the guy on the left of the picture there had a medical emergency on the beach strand, and ultimately he was in big trouble. But everybody, beach patrol, the deputy chiefs, made a good rescue, got him in the ambulance, and he was ultimately awake and talking on the way to the hospital. And he was very appreciative of what the firefighters, beach patrollers did to save his life, and he donated a food smoker and 10 life jackets earlier this year, and we already have the life jackets in operation with for the firefighters, and everybody has one, and we have multiple life jackets on the truck. So we're grateful to that. And he stopped by the firehouse a couple times, and it was a good rescue and good relationship with that seasonal resident that comes and goes. July, and that kicked off July 4th weekend. July 4th was on Sunday this year, I think, right? Those are pictures east and west of the pier, and as you can see, it was very busy. The busyness from Memorial Day through June, July 4th just picks up, and kind of continues on through July and into August a little bit. Those pictures there are worth 1,000 words of what not only the fire department and town staff, as far as public works and taking care of the trash and beach patrol and law enforcement, those pictures are worth 1,000 words of the importance of what we're doing to take care of people in the town and its visitors. It's another picture from a little bit farther out on the pier, but it was a beautiful weekend. And July 4th, we had the one rescue on July 3rd, July 4th. We had multiple rescues. Rip currents, the surf wasn't cooperating with us. The beach was packed. We had and discussed, myself and the deputy chiefs talked about, okay, we've got 4 beach patrollers out there. We have 3 chief officers, and our gut wasn't that wasn't going to be enough. And we ended up having 3 firefighters, a firefighter ride with each chief officer. So we had 6 plus 4 beach patrollers on this day, July 4th. And with everything as far as code enforcement, ordinances, EMS related stuff, and I think it was 8 water rescues in and around the pier. If we wouldn't have added that extra staffing, I'm not sure what the results would have been. So ultimately ended up being a good day, and rescues were made, people were taken care of, everybody had fun, and we slept well that night. August 1st was another day of cabanas flying. I don't remember the exact number on that particular day, but or the next slide, August 4th, and I threw a couple pictures in just to kind of show you the busyness, the steadiness of the beach strand even after the July 4th weekend. So that's August 14th. Still pretty busy east and west of the pier. Couple more beach patrollers. Again, we appreciate what they do, and everything from ordinances to rescue to EMS to filling in holes. They're a big part of our organization, and we thank them. Week before Labor Day was interesting because we had a lot of south wind. I think it was south, right, Dustin? Hard south wind for really the whole week before Labor Day weekend. And if you see the one picture there, a lot of sand on the walkways. And we started getting complaints about that. And really with as many walkways that ended up looking like that, Dustin threw a lot of personnel, added beach patrol, even fire department, chief officers out there shoveling walkways to try to get rid of the sand in advance of the big Labor Day weekend. But there was a few we didn't get to, but for that Thursday, Friday before the weekend, a lot of sand was shoveled by a lot of people to try to clear those walkways. And one of those things Mother Nature gave to us that was labor intensive and a challenge from time to time. There's pictures east to west on Labor Day weekend. We gotten pretty busy, and notoriously busy for Labor Day weekend, kind of the unofficial end of summer, but kids go back to school. But then as we got in after Labor Day into September, even October 1st, weather's still nice. We're into December and it's going to be 65 and sunny today. But even into October through September, we had some beach patrollers on the strand on the weekends. But then even in October, we stopped the end of September. But a couple times when we were out there for different things, there was still a lot of people out on the strand. Ordinances weren't being enforced, as you can see from these couple pictures, and another one October 16th. So I think that's part of our discussion and looking at is the end of the season longer than previous years. we started seeing a lot of young families, kids that aren't in school, little kids vacationing through September and October, adding, a bigger population on the beach strand than what we've seen in past years. So things to consider and think about as our operations maybe need to be running a bit longer. Alan, your computer doesn't like my bulleted lists. All right, the next one, the drone program. So we've talked about the drone program a little bit, and we received a donation specific to purchasing a drone. We did do that. Deputy Chief Adams has the drone. It's working. It's operational. He's been to a drone class to get certified and all the specific needs for the FAA and all that stuff. He's got to take a test. We've already been in contact with some big drone programs based out of fire departments for standard operating procedures. So that's in the works currently of creating our policies, what we're going to use it for. But this particular drone, it's has the capabilities to carry a 5-pound payload. So that can be a life jacket and drop it, and that can be a bottle of water. So some of those policies, procedures, and how we're going to use it are still being developed, but our goal is to be able to fly it and drop a life jacket to somebody in trouble. And if somebody's stuck in a kayak in one of the creeks around the island and the tide's going out and we can't get to them, which is often the case, at least we can be able to take a bottle of water, drop it to them, and see where they're at to get better eyes on it. I think as this program develops, it's going to be useful. And down the line, as we solidify our policies, procedures, the value that it shows, then we look at, upgrading drones in the future that have maybe some voice communication capabilities in addition to just video, maybe being able to carry a little bit bigger payload. So that's down the line, but the program's essentially a pilot program. We received a great donation to get it started, and we think there's going to be some value in it.
Are we training other operators?
Currently, no. The plan currently is to get him totally up to speed, policies, procedures in place. And then we've had some initial discussions about trying to have personnel on each shift at the firehouse trained, but we're still learning. So taking baby steps. And
Once Deputy Chief Adams is fully certified and trained, can he train others? Would that include certification for training others?
No, so it's not really a trainer type deal. I can give them the materials. You just have to go take a test through the FAA. There's not an actual class that you take, then you become certified. The classes out there just preps you for the FAA test with the all the different types of questions and stuff like that. So it's, with the materials I got, I can help them, and they can use the books and stuff like that. And then we just have to go to a testing center, which is Myrtle Beach, and take the test.
Good. Thank you. That's
Good.
all right, next one. Good thing you guys got the presentation. All right, so the next part are some topics that were submitted to me from residents, visitors, town council, or things that we've observed as being not necessarily an issue, but something we wanted to address and speak about it at this meeting. So, and some of them, our recommendation is don't take any action on it. So the first one, pets on the strand, the ordinance was was amended last year with the 9 a.m. time frame in the morning, with specific to dogs on leashes on the beach strand. The ordinance is clear, the signage is clear, and our recommendation is no change to the ordinance. I've already talked to Chief Claymar and Assistant Chief sitting over here. I'm sure he's aware of it. And last year when a police officer drove the strand at 9 a.m. And there was that marked vehicle coming down the strand, people with dogs scattered at 9 a.m. So we're asking for their help and support with that again this year. So really no recommendation to the strand, but I think a lot of times people know the ordinance, but unless they're caught, they're trying to get away with it. So I think we're good on that one. And I know the police department's going to help us out too with that. Another topic, surf and net fishing. We received a couple questions about this and challenges with especially May through August, especially into September, the busyness of the beach strand and how there's more and more people farther and farther out for longer and longer. The ordinance is pretty clear on where you're allowed to surf fish and net fish. And I'm not sure where we would, after we've talked about it, I'm not sure where we would push that zone out any farther. I think the ordinance is clear and we don't recommend changing it. Most people are going to be fishing away from other people. There's the occasional somebody that wants to fish right on the edge and amongst people. But anytime Beach Patrol goes down and says, hey, you got to get farther down, most people cooperate and it's not an issue. Go ahead.
Do those street restrictions also apply to surfing?
Yes,
I
those are
think
the same.
I
right?
think they hit.
Yeah.
It's those are also the ones for surfing and surfboards. Okay.
Yep. And in the there's an occasional couple surfers that try to test Beach Patrol and law enforcement and the deputy chiefs and try to surf near the pier because the wave action's better, but at some point we get them out farther where they're supposed to be. All right, next one, signs, flags on the beach strand. We took several complaints about different signs and flags. Looked at this. There's not a specific ordinance, but with Chad's help, we look in the UDO, and that kind of outlines what signs are allowed and exempt. And our recommendation is not to get into changing any of that or restricting certain signs or language. I don't think we have a huge issue out on the strand with it. So
So is that the problem, language that's on the signs?
Language, different political views, different sports teams. It's kind of everything, but I'm not sure we want to add an ordinance or specific language to restrict any of that.
Since your slides are not showing up for the audience, just to be clear, what we are allowing are flying of flags, up to 3 flags, not to include feather flags, according to your slide,
Right.
and that the size shall not exceed 4 feet by 6 feet. So there are limitations, number of flags and size of flags.
Yeah, and I don't think, have you seen any of those feather flags out there? I don't think we've seen any of those yet. Not to say that somebody couldn't bring one out this Easter, but and then as far as size, I don't think we've seen anything bigger than 4 by 6 anyway. So I think we're in good shape. All right, golf carts on the strand. That's ordinance 95.03. I've talked to Chief Claymar a little bit about this and the golf cart permitting process. He passes out, and I'm not sure exactly how many permits he gave out last year, but One of the biggest challenges for us is golf carts getting stuck. And especially right now with only one emergency access to the Strand, several times last year we had golf carts stuck in that emergency access. And we've had to figure out, dig, yank them out with vehicles. And sooner or later, as my luck would have it, I'm going to need to like totally push a golf cart into the weeds to get a fire truck or a jet ski through there, or a pickup truck. And I don't want that to happen. Other challenges with the golf carts are we've had several issues with folks. They're supposed to drive from point A once they get on the beach to point B and then return to point A and not drive around. We've had some of those issues. And one, I don't want to see somebody get run over or somebody get run into. We these guys and myself have enough stress with UTVs and stuff out there in big vehicles. So I talked to Chief Claymore. He wasn't in opposition to it, but our recommendation is no more permitted golf carts on the Strand at all, just to eliminate some of those safety concerns, not clogging the access and so forth. But obviously that's council decision on if you want to be that restrictive.
Does the ADA come into play with that at all?
The ADA requirements and review that we've reviewed in past years related to access, the town's providing great ADA access, and restricting that doesn't go in opposition to it. It's one of those things that when I talk to Chief Claymore, we don't have to allow it, I guess, is what other beaches don't, right? Local beaches. So that's kind of some of the things that we've talked about and looked at other beach strands.
The other beaches, do any of the other beaches have permit handicap golf carts?
Not that I know of. Do you know of any, Joe?
Have you actually checked with the Brunswick Island beaches to see?
Yeah, I've talked to Ocean Isle.
Holden, Oak Island. I mean, the one concern is that is a way for handicapped people to get down to the beach and to enjoy it. Another alternative are the beach chairs that we provide, which take a little bit more labor and effort and support to help a person get out to the beach.
The other, Chief Claymore has also looked at fully enforcing the ordinance the way it's wrote, which is giving a permit to a golf cart that has a handicap license plate. Because currently he's allowing somebody to come in, rent a golf cart, and put an application in if they have a handicap sticker on their vehicle or whatnot, or listen to the scenarios and given a permit. So he could be more restrictive, follow the town ordinance to a T, but it's the challenge for us operationally is clogging the emergency access and then having people drive around the Strand. And that's a tough problem.
Let me just go ahead.
Do you have a feeling if the majority of the people who do this, for one, approximately how many golf carts are permitted, roughly? Any ideas?
You know, Joe?
For a week?
And so at this
Wow.
point, if it's 2 to 3 a week, it's majority are vacationers, not residents. From your perspective.
Yeah. Well, the challenge is how many are we going to allow? where's it stop? Because it appear, and these guys behind me can talk to more. They're probably seeing it ticking upwards. More people that are coming, more golf carts want a permit to drive on the Strand. So where do we stop?
Do they have to prove that they have a handicap
I'll have to let
issue?
We require a copy of their license plate, registration that shows they have a handicap, or the placard itself.
Does a handicap license plate for the golf cart require special equipment? Because I can see that they would get stuck pretty easily in the sand that we have that's not packed.
it's no, they're just
Regular golf carts.
regular golf carts that a lot of them are being rented locally.
Yeah.
So
One suggestion I would have, separate from whether we decide to limit or ban, is that if a handicap permit is issued, that a flag be provided that's up on that golf cart that shows visibly to anybody that it's a handicap golf cart that's been permitted. Rather than, I think, what is it now? There's a little sticker that they just have to have with them.
they have a permit packet from the police
A
department. right?
permit packet, which means somebody's got to go up there and check, verify, validate, and know. But if there's a handicap flag, like sometimes you see on golf courses that let golfers go up onto near to the green, that would clearly identify that that's a permitted cart. Even a little flag that says handicap permit, something like that. But that's separate. The other type of thing is there a way to, sort of provide assistance that maybe, and I haven't thought this through, of how we can help move handicapped people from the gazebo down to a place on the beach without taking a golf cart down there.
Are you suggesting give rides?
That would be one thing to think about. I'm not suggesting, I'm just trying to brainstorm right now
We've
as an alternative rather than completely eliminated
Mr. Mayor,
that.
that gets into our liability insurance, and we
Yeah, I
don't want
would
to touch
think
that.
that's a liability, yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering just about the liability for the town of having these permits on the beach, because I know maybe not so much North Carolina, but a lot of South Carolina beaches have had issues, even just having emergency vehicles on the beaches and things like that. And so I think for the town, just liability of physically having these on here with people who are not trained to operate these, who have not gone through courses, who've not gone through training. This is just, in my mind, a liability the town doesn't need. And as the population increases, especially if word gets around that you can do this down here, these applications are going to increase and it's going to become more and more of a hassle. And then the problem is, like Chief pointed out, when do you stop? So from my perspective, I would be fine if we no longer permitted golf carts on the beach.
Mayor, can I recommend that Chief Claymore and Chief Hasselmeyer get together, bring you a presentation of how many golf carts are being permitted with their recommendation for the second January meeting?
Be good. I'll put it on today.
thank you.
Good point.
I think the problem is, or appears to be, that people get these permits and then they're used inappropriately. It's not just to and from, they're riding around on the beach with them. Golf carts have become one of our biggest problems on the beach, not just on the Strand, but on the roads and everything, illegal drivers. And I think we're going to have to take a strong stand about enforcing the rules for golf carts. That would come under more of Ken's purview, but something we're definitely going to have to discuss before the season starts.
If we do it on the second meeting in January, that would also, and it's on our agenda, that would give people a chance to comment and provide some opinions on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, either emailing ahead of time or actually coming to the meeting, so I think that's a good option.
Could we
That's
also
fine.
include in that the number of golf carts that have gotten stuck that have required additional help?
I'm not sure we have that specific data,
No,
other than it's been multiple times,
it's been multiple.
unless you have specifics. But I know for one, I've had to help pull out several and push several out with that emergency access, and that's just me as the fire chief. So I'm sure it's happening a lot more. Keeping that emergency access open, we've got a lot going on that beach.
Sure.
And that's one of my biggest concerns. That's our only way in and out. And
Okay.
we've got to find a way to keep that clear. I'll get with Chief Claymore and get some of his specific data he has. And
Good, thank you.
all right, next one, public nudity. We received some emails, talked about this several times over the years, but I think the ordinance is clear. We don't recommend any ordinance we don't recommend any change to the ordinance. If and any recommendation based off of this, I would suggest passing it along to the town attorney, and anything with nudity or bathing suit complaints, that sort of things, we're involving law enforcement with one of their body cameras. So that's what we're doing as far as the fire department, beach patrol, and don't really have any recommendation change on that.
It seems public standards are changing a bit. So trying to figure out how to enforce any standards are going to be difficult, other than what's clearly articulated in the ordinance.
I agree.
Especially the great advertising we get from Geico.
Right, and the picture was from the Geico commercial that I clip grabbed, because apparently some people think we have public nudity options because of that commercial.
I got out of state emails
Right.
asking about that policy.
Yeah.
Pro or con?
Just
Ask
curious about how liberal we have become.
All right, the next slide here talks about the East End potential patrol expansion. There's been several comments, questions. We've established the historical patrol area. And I have the East End here, and we'll talk about the West End in the next slide. But expanding the beach patrol area of enforcement past where we currently go, it kind of shows on the map there. Stretching past Palm Cove. This is about, if we go all the way to the edge of the sand in that line of delineation across there at the toe of the dunes or just off, we would need some help from Public Works and Dustin to put some landmarks as far as poles, signage, so we can show Beach Patrol where they're going to, and also have that line and thing to show people, so people, visitors and residents, know. We can go about a quarter mile farther on the east end, essentially in town limits there, and the map you're seeing is from the county GIS mapping software. So it's about as accurate as we can get. But we could potentially go that way. And I'm going to flip to the west end here. And
We're not patrolling
Oh.
Palm Cove right now?
No, that's currently about the emergency access around or the old emergency access just past there. The start of,
Before we go to the west end, I worked the beach patrol when we first moved here, first summer we were here, and we used to go all the way to the end.
And I seen them down there too, because I walked down that way as well.
Yeah. My thoughts are that the beach patrol and the garbage can poles and the lifesaver poles should cover the area where we have residents and walkways, and that takes us to the last house in Palm Cove on the east end, which is not the full quarter-mile distance to get out there. Once you get past that last house, the sand also starts to get pretty soft and mushy and more subject to the tidal effects. But by patrolling out there, by putting the stakes out there and patrolling, you clearly delineate where the cabanas are. You delineate for the beach patrol how far they should go and what they should do. It doesn't stop them from looking out further to the east and making sure everything is okay out there. But as you get further past Palm Cove, it starts to diminish in terms of how far people want to haul all their stuff out there. But I think they should be patrolling out to the end of Palm Cove.
There are walkways down there now.
Yeah, they're private walkways,
but
but they are still walkways. I don't see much of a compelling reason at this time to go further west than we do now, which is essentially to the Bird Island sign, I think.
west, you mean? Yeah.
Not quite that far, but
Yeah, but where we
Well, and-
go now, and I think we should patrol to the east.
and if that's the direction of council, I can tell you since the last 3 summers I've been here, and I don't think in the previous summer 18, beach patrol hasn't patrolled past there. So if council wishes, we can expand that. The challenge with more expansion, add more responsibility, more personnel is a challenge. Equipment, all the things just add up. So it's a long way from the pier to Palm Cove, and we got to make sure we have people, and it's especially June, July, August. It is busy.
But the additional area, just for Palm Cove, I mean, if we're just talking Palm Cove, is not that significant, really.
Well, we patrolled that 20 years ago. There wasn't even a Palm Cove, but people were out there, and the area was patrolled. I wasn't even aware that we had a cutoff point. So
Palm. Also, times are changing on the beach.
well,
Yeah. One of the things that I would point out is that where we stop now at the old emergency access way, you have the people who comply with the rules up to that point, and they look out to the east, and you still have lots of people out there, and they're putting cabanas wherever they want. They're just operating as they feel, and there's not the maintaining of an emergency access way, emergency land between the dunes and the garbage cans to make sure that beach patrol or emergency vehicles have a clear access to get out there. And so that's where my recommendation is: take it out to the end of Palm Cove. Then wherever we've got the garbage cans, wherever we have the residences, it's the same set of rules that we're enforcing.
And it's also clear where the line
Yeah.
And if
work on that for next year.
well, we can work on that with Dustin and get the backhoe out there and put a couple more poles to make that happen.
Do we have to make a motion or just give a consensus? Pardon? They could go. Is there any problems with that?
No.
I agree.
I agree also.
Thank you.
All right, the next slide's the west end, and kind of got the summary feeling that leave the west end as it is.
Does the fire department, beach patrol have burning justification for going further out to the west,
Well, the only
past the residential area.
the one comment you made about emergency access lane and cabanas going wherever past our patrol area, still within town limits, kind of applies to that end too. Because the west end is just as busy as the east end. As far as past where the beach patrol is, there's lots of people. As soon as they get past that pole, there's stuff everywhere. So as far as, I don't think we have a huge issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we get out towards 40th and Palm Cove, there's a way for us to get around. You know, when you're within, 40th to the pier and the pier to 15th, we need that emergency access lane. So I think the similar, if you take a picture at the east end, there's cabanas and stuff everywhere. If you take that same picture at the west end, it's the same thing. I know I'm not
Well, we
I
go
don't
past.
think I have a big recommendation either way. I can leave it as is because ultimately it's the last patrol area for the patrollers. Because if we extend a little bit on the east end, a little bit on the west end, it's stretching us even more thin.
When you go out to the west end, at what point, when you get to Bird Island, the bird preservation area, is that considered part of the town, or is that part of this state owned? And are we responsible for the beach in that area?
It's in the fire district, right? Right, in the fire district all the way to the state line, that actually you go all the way to the end of Bird Island at the jetties. We can get there quicker on the sand, and we're actually in South Carolina. So we have going towards past 40th, we're in the town limits. Past that last trash can pole to the Bird Island sign is a little bit of a distance. That's town limits. Then the Bird Island sign is essentially county. It's still our fire district. So any emergency, we're going to. All the way to the state line, which is on the sand that we're driving on. And depending on where emergency 911 calls, whether they hit a North Carolina or South Carolina tower, but it seems like a lot of times when a 911 call comes in from the end of the island or the end of Bird Island at Little River Inlet, the 911 call is going to Brunswick County. So then we're getting toned out. And oftentimes, even if Horry County gets the call first, they're going to call us, especially if it's something on the sand, because we can get there quick.
Well, I would be comfortable leaving it to your discretion and recommendation as to whether we change going out to the west. If you're comfortable not making a change now, I wouldn't argue with that.
Is this a beach patrol issue, or is it a fire department issue that you're talking about?
Well, to a certain extent, you say beach patrol, you say fire department, and they're intermingled because we have so much going on together. The patrol, the actual ordinance enforcement is tasked with the beach patrol, but also you have deputy chiefs and myself out there too, so it's some of both. If given the option, I would say leave it alone on the west end. Just because if we expand the west end too, it's expanding the area, more enforcement. It's a great span with not a lot of people to.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable with that.
I am too.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to bring to your attention that you are having the fire department, beach patrol are having the same issues on both ends of the beach, but the west end is more prevalent with the nudity, the dogs off the leash, cabanas everywhere. So just both ends are the same.
So are you recommending we extend the beach patrol out to the west end?
I'm not. I just wanted on the record that both ends have the same issues, even though there's no houses past 40th.
Yeah.
There seems to be an attitude of there's a lot more freedom on the west end for you to come and do exactly as you please.
Then we need to patrol that area. We have to add it on, but the patrol and enforcement, it should be consistent in all of Sunset Beach.
Well, that's our fire district. It's not, all of that's not Sunset Beach per se.
Right. We could, as far as town ordinance enforcement, we could go to the Bird Island sign past the last trash can pole, which was based off the county GIS map and what we calculated about 0.3 of a mile, which is possible. We'll get with Dustin, put more poles out there to delineate that line. But the challenge is we can do it. And I'm not a big part of me agrees with you. If we're going to do it on the east end, do it on the west end to make it fair, consistent. Because there's only several houses in Palm Cove. There's many more people on the east end of the island than that are actually coming from those houses. So, and there's a lot of folks that go to the west end. If we expand the expansion area, I just caution you that adding the patrol area is more personnel tasking. There's time, to go a half mile on the beach in a UTV and enforce every ordinance, cabana, every issue, worry about EMS, rescue. They're not traveling a half mile on the sand in 5 minutes. Sometimes, as busy as things are, it's an hour to go from the pier to 40th. So that's my only cautious statement of.
Well, to figure out what you need and ask for it at budget time.
And part of the discussion today is looking at some personnel things. And budget time discussion this year doesn't help us in 2022 is the one challenge we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Well, we have made budget amendments in the past.
Right. All right. So the next slide. Hey, it's working now. Now we got it fixed. So I think we covered most of this, but the one area, as far as the potential expansion area, the deputy chiefs and I have looked at this for 3 solid years, and I'm analyzing things and listening to their historical perspective, and I love hearing that. When Deputy Chief Childers tells me this was the busiest summer we've ever had, I said, well, didn't you tell me that in 2020 as well? And then in 2019 too? I was like, well, what about 2018? So family vacationers are not our only visitors. There's a lot more locals. There's a lot more day trippers. I mentioned this already. Emergency response from Tubbs Inlet all the way to the state line and beyond, essentially in the Tubbs Inlet. So those are huge responsibilities. And a big part of me has to have the cavalry at the firehouse for when those big things happen. I can't strip the fire department to worry about ordinance enforcement. I got to have a good mix, because if something goes bad on the beach, we've got to have the firemen coming with the cavalry to fix any problem we have, all the way from Tubbs Inlet to the state line. So those are some of the challenges, and I think we all understand those, but I wanted to highlight some of them too as we get busier and bigger as a community. All right, let's talk cabanas. So we've looked at this. I know some of you have looked at the cabana ordinance for years, and there's been changes. The deputy chiefs have looked at it and dealt with it and had to deal with changes on the beach strand from year to year. One of the best things, I think, last year especially, we didn't change anything going into last year, so there was a lot of folks that knew the ordinance from 2020, came in 2021, and that helped. The couple things that we've been looking at, and one of the biggest challenges is the area around the pier is very busy. So one of our recommendation is to push the cabana area out. Currently it's from 1st to 27th Street, and you got to be outside of 1st Street, you got to be outside of 27th to put a cabana in line. So our recommendation is to push that the 3rd and 29th. Uh-oh. Get ahead. I don't know what Alan's doing over there. So push that no cabana zone 3rd and 29th. That gives us some area around the gazebo to maneuver our vehicles, UTVs, kind of controls some of that, gives us that area of less cabanas. So I'd like you to consider that, and I know the deputy chiefs would too. The other, still want to keep no cabanas in the emergency lane from the trash can poles to the dunes. That is how we get around, especially from Memorial Day to past Labor Day. If we don't have that emergency lane, we're not driving vehicles. And we can't have that because there's thousands and thousands of people out there and need to have that lane open. The other thing, the town ordinance currently requires the tie down strings to be straight down within the footprint of the cabana. So after some of these big wind events throughout June, especially with cabanas flying, talking to some of the different vendors, and we've kind of had this analysis and talk and debate about, okay, what can we do? And our recommendation is to remove that restriction, because every flyer and pamphlet for setting up a cabana or a neoprene shading device, or we saw several new types of shading devices this year, and we're like, where'd this come from? And people are innovative. The Shibumis that everybody's familiar with, has those manufacturers recommend the strings to be out in front and not as the ordinance requires. So after looking at their manufacturer recommendations, talking to the vendors, and then actually seeing how these things are flying in these wind events, our recommendation is to remove that restriction and let them set up the cabanas as designed, still in the back row with a little bit of flexibility, so we keep the strings out of the emergency lane, but let them set them up as the manufacturers recommend. And hopefully that's the initial hope, to try to prevent some of these wind events and lots of cabanas flying again next year. Is that a guarantee? I have no idea. That's Mother Nature's decision, but I think that's a good option to pursue, and hopefully it helps.
It would make for a sturdier cabana, then, what you're saying.
Well,
It should.
It should, and that's how the
That is what the manufacturer said, that they should be at a.
Deputy Chief Adams spent some time looking at the Shibumi instructions, how to set it up, different cabanas, the Coleman ones, some of the different ones that the vendors are using, and they're all saying put them out.
Put it out.
So when they put them out, do they have a recommendation? Usually when you have some type of a tent device, it would go out 45 degrees from the corners. But the question is whether they go out 2 feet or 6 feet. 2 feet would be minimal impact on, 2 or 3 feet would be minimal impact on the emergency lane and still give you, I would think, still give you room to get the emergency vehicles through there. It makes sense to put them up according to manufacturer's recommendations.
I think we ought to leave it, just remove that part of the strings and advise folks to set them up as recommended by the manufacturer, and see if we can control and move them slightly off the back line to keep the strings out and see what happens. Because I don't think we should say your strings can only be 2 feet out or 6 feet out. I think we ought to just allow them to be set up per manufacturer recommendations in the cabana line. Let Beach Patrol help people adjust that to keep our emergency lane open. And
We have to change the ordinance. And so we can do that with just text changes, right?
but those are the two things. Expand that zone of no cabanas a little bit away from the pier to help us out operationally, and then remove that string requirement. I think helps it, and it helps Beach Patrol some with educating people and helping them set them up and not having quite so many issues, hopefully.
I think those are reasonable recommendations.
Yeah, I do too.
Now, Chief, the no cabanas in the emergency lane, that's been enforced in the past.
Correct.
Correct, yes, okay, good.
On the 3rd Street side, I don't think there's really any rental properties that lie within 3rd Street, 1st Street.
Maybe, yeah, you got Ocean Ridge, Kingfisher, just the big houses. Maybe, is there any houses?
I don't think there's
Maybe
any
one.
houses, but there's
Yeah,
the,
not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and on the 29th Street side, there are some properties there as well. But I don't think it's
Well,
unreasonable.
Plus what's on the numbered streets.
Well, outside of 3rd Street is not affected, but within.
Right.
Yeah. But the congestion that is clearly there, people come in, park where they can, and then come straight down and the area adjacent to the pier. And I think it's reasonable to keep the cabanas further out. And 29th and 3rd seems to be a good compromise.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So are we saying yes?
We take action?
We agree with that? So we'll need a ordinance change on that one too, right? Sounds good to me.
All right, next part, getting into staffing. Staffing's always a big topic, and we'll talk about this in conjunction with, I already alluded to the fact, Beach Patrol, Fire Department, separate but not separate, because they work hand in hand essentially year round. But the chief officers, not only myself, but Deputy Chief Adams, Deputy Chief Childers, spend a lot of time on the beach strand. We have some part-time firefighter EMTs that also help out with Beach Patrol. Seasonal employees, the last several years we've had a good group of returning seasonal employees that know and understand the ordinances. They know the operations. They're getting better on many fronts, understanding the fire department operations too. So as with anything, as we get busier, the town gets busier. The goal is to enhance all these services and of Beach Patrol and the fire department, and meet the expectations of council and the services expected that our visitors and residents have had too. But I provided last week, I think, somewhat of a financial analysis report that reviewed, and I think Miss Anglin, she could probably add that to this or on the website too, if you all wish, to kind of outline some of the fire fee increases, and I guess not fire fee revenue has gone up because of construction and building. We haven't increased the rate or changed anything. But as development increases, there's more revenue that's coming in. Accommodation revenue has increased. We've seen that in charted data over the last several years. Sales tax revenue, again, increasing. Now, can accommodations tax, sales tax, is it guaranteed to keep going up? No. Can we conservatively predict that it will keep going up? Probably. I've talked with the rental companies on the island about, I said, comparatively speaking, from 2020, 2021, and what you're seeing for 2022, what can you tell me about rental occupancy for 2022? And both of the big rental companies are saying same or busier than 2021. So some of that institutional knowledge of our local folks are also telling me it's going to be a busy summer. And next year, when I asked Deputy Chief Childers, is this the busiest summer yet? And he's going to probably tell me yes. Sales tax, we can anticipate, and we're already seeing it with the influx of folks moving to the area, new developments. And in that document I gave you, there's a lot of information specific to developments in the town, within the town, but also developments within our fire district. The fire district is 16 square miles comparatively to the town's 5 square miles. And then we also look at outside of the fire district, Calabash, Carolina Shores, the Griswold area, even towards Ocean Ridge and Ocean Isle. There's a huge influx of folks coming to Sunset Beach and spending money on various things. So sales tax, probably conservatively, we can estimate that it's going to continue to stay where it is and increase as more people come to the area. With more regular population and a booming tourism season, I think those numbers are going to continue predictably the way we've seen them grow a little bit each year, but time always tells as well. So one thing, and as far as an analytical point of view, the last 3 years I've been looking at staffing, personnel, how we deal with the beach strand animal, and how we maintain a level in the fire service to take care of all those responsibilities, but also be the cavalry for the beach. Sometimes we are taxed to the tilt. Other times, the fire department is starting to run more calls here and there. So when we start seeing more calls at night, that's an indication that there's more folks around. And as the regular population increases, we've got to be prepared for that. We know the beach is going to be busy. We've estimated, and everybody has a different estimate of how many people are on the beach strand, but a pretty regular one that I hear is 15,000 people on the beach strand. Me personally, I think it's more sometimes in June, July, and August. But 15,000 people on the beach strand, that's a big number of people, and certainly more than the town population itself. So that's a challenge that myself, the deputy chiefs, the fire department, and the beach patrol are tasked with making sure it's taken care of. So the recommendation, and this recommendation is more conservative than I initially wanted to present to you, but part of my mentality is we need to grow a little bit at a time as the big boom of development is coming, and this area is a tourist destination, and I don't think that's going to change. So being able to grow and develop our organization in the town a little bit at a time instead of big chunks, I think is important and conservative for the budget and the pressures that you all face in decision making too. But I don't want to be reactive, because reactive has consequences. I want to challenge the status quo. I want to provide the best service that we can for Sunset Beach, help our neighbors when we can, and take care of all these visitors. With the financial summary report that I showed and presented, and the development, the increases in revenue from fire fees alone over the last couple of years, we saw developments like Sunset Ridge come in and Chatham Glen that increased revenues. What's already started in Sea Trail, the sanctuary, and some of the developments in that document, there's a lot more coming than we've seen in the past. So that's when I say Beach Patrol and Fire Department, it's kind of one and the same. We've got to, it's two different things, but it's the same. And it's December, and Deputy Chief Adams is already starting to get a few more gray hairs thinking about 2022 Beach Patrol season. So it's really a year-round preparation, service, and then kind of de-escalation of the season into the starting up again. But our recommendation in this presentation is to hire 3 more full-time firefighter EMTs. Partially fund that from accommodations, partially fund it from the fire fee budget, the operational budget of the fire department. Those percentages on there are kind of my best guess of maybe how it should go. Should it be 50-50? Should it be 40-60 the other way? And that's kind of, if you entertain the idea, that's something we can look at, and hopefully Miss Anglin will give us some insight on the exact funding. Annual cost at $200,000, that's on the high end for 3 employees. That's an annual cost, permanent positions. Our goal is to use them having the fire rescue EMT minimum on the beach strand more frequently, having that rescue presence more regularly, using them on the strand, also having more firefighters on duty. So if there's a big fire, we can pull them off the strand, they go to the fire. And that gets into our ISO rating, or our Department of Insurance inspection that's coming. The more personnel we have to take care of fire incidents, the better our rating can potentially be. The lower the rating, the better insurance rates. Typically, the lower we get, it'll help commercial insurance rates. So there is some savings, or, there is effectiveness on that for the town overall. The 3 firefighter EMTs in the off season, it's interesting here. A lot of times the firefighters take vacations in the winter from Sunset Beach. A lot of them work through the summer, and then they use their personal vacation times in the winter. So having additional firefighters on staff can help fill voids, put them on shift. The exact schedule, whether is something operationally that will solidify, but having 3 more firefighter EMTs helps us with staffing the beach. And in this presentation, I asked for approval to start that process in January, and I understand it's a budget amendment and not a budget discussion, but to have that staff and that extra help this summer, I've got to start it as soon as possible. If we decide not to do that, then we look at it in the budget process. But getting back to, I don't want to be reactive. I think we need the help this summer. That's my prediction analysis. I see what's coming, see the development, see the busyness, and I think it's time to add additional staff, full-time staffing to help with all those challenges we face. And I want to be on the front end of it. I don't want to be getting run over. I'll take questions because I'm sure there's a few.
Mr. Mayor, if I may point out,
Go ahead, Lisa.
adding 3 full-time firefighters puts 1 additional person on each shift. They run 3 shifts. So instead of 4, it'll be 5, right?
There's currently 5 each shift, so
So
it would go to 6, but we're going to use summertime. We want to make sure there's EMS rescue presence on that beach strand in a bigger presence than we have
Correct.
previous
And
years.
in addition to that, since you've added the expansion of the beach patrol on both ends of the island, there will also need to be additional beach patrol seasonal hires made as well. Once they present those numbers to Tara, she will be able to give you a better percentage basis of what will come out of general fund, fire fees, and what will come from accommodations tax.
Good, Charlie.
I'm a big proponent of public safety because of my background, but this also plays in, these 3 firefighters plays into the future growth, which is something that we're sitting on in the to be discussed at a future council meeting. And although we're talking about the fire department now, I'm going to add with the police department, the hiring process takes a long time. We authorize Ken to hire 2 firefighters, or 2 police officers to patrol the island. And the time for hiring and training that it took, we hardly had them out there for the summer. Am I correct there, Ken? And I do want to be proactive. I don't want to be reactive. I think we should find a way to do this starting now. So when the season hits, we're up and ready to go. I don't know which, thankfully we have Tara that will tell us how much can come out of the accommodations tax and how much out of the fire department budget. But I'm fully favorable of starting this process right now.
Lisa, would we be able to have things ready for that second meeting in January to address some of these issues that we're talking about now? Will that give you adequate time?
You can make a motion today for him to hire 3 full-timers, and he can go ahead and start that process. The other things that you've added, golf carts, the cabanas, and the changing from 1st and 27th, 3rd and 29th are text amendments that we can bring back to you next month.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned this inspection coming up.
Mhm.
Does timing of making hiring decisions impact our status for that inspection?
Doesn't hurt.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. The data you provided showed lots and lots of the houses that have been built and stuff in the last 2 or 3 years. And as that money comes in, is the increase in fire taxes or fire fees so far, does that go a long way to cover that $200,000 annual cost to these guys?
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, and I have the data and the increases in fire fee revenue over the last couple of years, and it's ticked up. It keeps ticking up. So yes, and in addition, the current fire fee revenue, not only is it covering operations, there's about $100,000 coming out of the fire fee that's going towards capital apparatus notes. So as it ticks up, and I think in the document I provided a couple examples of a particular neighborhood with how many homes, how much revenue that would bring in as they're completed. I think between everything I'm seeing, fire fee increases as far as revenue as new construction happens. You never know. We might get a couple big commercial projects around the area too that influence that. And the accommodations, everything that I read, and I spent a lot of time looking at the audit and all this different data. The town of Sunset Beach is in a good place. And this type of decision, I don't think there's no need to increase the tax rate at all. The money's coming in from other revenue streams. You don't have to increase your taxes either.
When you
Based
say
on-
taxes, you mean fire fees to the individuals as
Yeah,
well?
or the individual tax rate.
Property tax.
Property tax
Property
rate
tax.
within the town. So I think we're in good shape to prepare for the future. See, we're predicting what the future is bringing, but all indications are it's coming. And a little bit at a time, as the police department added some staff and public works may need to, or different areas of the town. Those are all important, not just the fire department, not just beach patrol. And a little bit at a time, as we see the need, we have to be ready to provide that service. And I think if we wait for the next budget cycle to make this decision, I'm definitely not going to have more personnel hired for the summer. And it makes me tired thinking about it.
Do we know when with the new developments, when the revenue is going to kick in for those new developments?
For fire fees, the fire fee is collected once it's recorded, and so once a house is complete, everything's recorded with the county, and then whenever they send the
But then,
tax.
based on what we know about when these projects are slated to be completed, that's not going to be this year for sure, right?
Well, and that's some of which in the finance summary report, I included information from Kerry White in the building inspections of kind of just, and he gave me data just specific to the town. How many, and I can't recite it off the top of my head, but how many houses have been completed, how many are under construction, how many are permitted just within the town limits. So that data is in there. So yeah, it's flowing. Things are moving not only in the town, but in the fire district and beyond.
But the question is, when will that revenue? My concern is that we hire now, but the revenue that we're projecting won't be available for some time after that.
I think as the fire fee increases have already come up, there's a little bit of money that we're saving already each year and have some flexibility in the salary line item currently to already make this happen. And then as it keeps going up, we're going to be in good shape.
Well, as you point out, I think we have to think about the rest of the departments as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Well,
the tax office is, they are making discoveries monthly, and those are added at that time. And then we can be proactive in notifying them of the houses that are being CO'd and are coming online monthly.
So
the data you provided said there were 61 certificates of occupancy in 2021, 141 houses under construction right now that's going through there.
And
So
that's just within the
that's
town.
that's without all of the new developments coming on board. So, you know, it's showing the money is coming in, I think.
So where I'm at on this, I agree with Charlie. I think, and the chief, we need to be proactive in this. We're growing leaps and bounds year after year. Don't want to get caught behind the 8 ball on public safety at all. I would just like, versus saying go ahead with the hires right now, just say, you know, I support this, but I'd like to see the review by Mrs. Drop to see where this funding streams would actually come from this, and then we move forward from there once that's secured.
yeah, that's my concern as well, that the funding is clear.
Can she do that next month? January 10th?
Oh,
Okay.
well, I have a motion, then we can discuss it further. I move that we direct Chief Hassemeyer to start the process to hire 3 full-time firefighters and EMTs. It's got to get, I'm sure there's, I don't know what all is involved, but if we go actively looking on January 1st, at least he'll have all his ducks in a row.
Do I have a second?
I would like to
question.
amend that to give a chance to get the finances in there. And so amend it to go ahead, do your preparations, but be prepared to execute after the 10 January meeting. You know, there are things you have to do. You have to put together ads, job descriptions. I guess you have most of that stuff. Would that work?
Yeah, my only question or observation of the discussion is with everything, all the finances, a lot of the finance reports and stuff and analysis, accommodation, sales tax, fire fees, all that stuff, that's the same stuff Tara's going to give you. And other than Tara being here, but Miss Anglin knows if it's possible or not right now, that it's, are we delaying or do you need somebody other than me to say that it can work? But it's my challenge.
Well, I would sort of agree with Mr. Nern's motion, recognizing if the financial information came in on 10th of January, we may tell you to cease and desist if we can't afford it. And sort of with that understanding, I would then second Charlie's motion.
Any more discussion?
So you're saying that you wouldn't hire anyone before you would have that analysis complete?
Well, he's not. I'm saying that I find it doubtful that he would be signing contracts and hiring somebody between now over the Christmas holidays and by the 1st of January. But if he could start all the process and be ready to do that,
That's fine.
unless, am I missing something? You got 3 guys lined up right now to sign,
No, but
or 3 fire persons? Excuse me.
if you approve me to hire 3,
Yeah.
I will post it within a day or two to have interviews and stuff 1st of January. It's
You're basically going to delay him 30 plus days.
So Lisa, do you feel then that Tara will come back with a positive report for us? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I do.
If you look at the number of the increased adjustment and accommodation taxes, which I don't think really should be highly dedicated to the fire department, but you see that can almost cover what's going on. There's been some increase in sales taxes already this year that's taking place, and I think the number on fire fees are going to show themselves to be pretty much able to cover this just by reviewing the material that got provided. So
Correct. There's
yeah,
currently 149 houses within our district under construction. Kerry has 50 plus applications sitting on his lap right now. The planning board will be looking at 4, potentially 5 developments coming through for final approvals. Once those final plat approvals are done, they can start pulling building permits and start building.
So with all this
I think-
being said,
Yeah.
I would, and with all the discussion, I would support Mr. Nern's original motion to allow Mr. Hasselmeyer to post for these 3 positions.
Any more discussion? We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
thank you.
Let's clarify
Go
that.
ahead.
So the motion is for Paul to begin the process of hiring 3 full-timers. And Tara is still to come back with a financial analysis for you in January.
Preferably on the 10th.
Yeah,
that
we would
correct?
like that analysis, but tell him to
Okay,
start the
Yes.
process to do it, so there's not a time delay.
got it.
I
Thanks.
think
And considering just hiring employees at this,
I'm sorry, what was it?
just considering having to hire employees during this time anyway, in general.
Anything else you got? You
Good
got
point.
more?
Good point.
I hope I'm done.
Are you done?
I would just like to add one comment. You know,
I would like to.
I know I spend a lot of time up and down the beach a lot, and I've been very impressed with the way Beach Patrol has done and the Fire Patrol and the changes that have been made. The life rings, the jet ski being posted out there. I would just like to encourage the one area that I got was occasionally the level of diplomacy on the part of the Beach Patrol gets challenged. And I understand that, and it's difficult in the reactions that they have to some of the citizens, but encourage them to continue to be the diplomats that we expect them to be when they go out and they're selling Sunset Beach, and the policies that we have that they're enforcing.
Mhm.
So
No, I agree. And the goal is teaching them to be nice and they're stewards of the town. And they are challenged from time to time. And we have to address that. But overall, I think 99.9% of the time they're dealing with a lot of people every day they're out there, and they do an excellent job. And I think they will in the future too. That's
Thank you.
all I have, unless you got
No more questions?
Thank you.
Chief?
No, thank you, Bob.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir, for bringing it up.
could I ask for a quick 5-minute recess
Yes, sir.
since we've been here almost 2 hours? Thank you.
I learned a lot of that one.
Meeting back to order. Next up is our proclamation for the National School Choice Week from 23/01/23 through 29/2022 is the week that they're looking for. I know each one council had a chance to look at this. Does anybody have any questions or any discussion? If so, let me know.
No, I'm good.
Charlie,
Would-
good?
would-
I would like to make a comment if I could.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. What the council is being presented with is a National School Choice Week proclamation. National School Choice Week proclamation. When you read this, and I know many people who are here don't have it, obviously, and people on maybe on YouTube don't have it, but it is sort of a plain vanilla look at acknowledging the benefits of school choice in America, basically. It is, however, there's a little more to it, and it comes what comes to being is about the group that's behind School Choice Week. And people in the county or people in Sunset Beach may not realize that it becomes a simple resolution, it looks like here. But it really is, through my background in education, the reason for the National School Choice Week is actually to support alternatives to public schools. And that's a big statement, alternatives to public schools. It is something that supports religious schools, charter schools, etc. It does not support public schools. And I think that's a very important thing here to understand. And we in Brunswick County have as our heart of our education our Brunswick County Public Schools. We do have some charter school, we do have religious school, and so there are choices in Brunswick County. But what I would like to do is, if I could do this, and certainly council will have to accept it, is make three changes to this recommendation, this resolution. Three changes, I'm sorry. One is in the last whereas, where it says, whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options, I think we should cross out the need for and just say in this whereas that schools and organizations are to raise awareness for effective educational options. The word effective is important. You want any other school district, any other schools within your county to be effective in what they do. But the idea here is to have schools and organizations to raise awareness of effective educational options. And then to add two more whereas to the proclamation. And they would read as follows. The first one would define what this organization is all about. And what it would say is, whereas National School Choice Week is a product of schools, organizations, and people who support alternatives to traditionally operated public school systems. So I think this is important here because it gives a background of the group that supports this, and is not a group that supports traditionally operated public schools. So that would be the first whereas. The second one would be whereas the importance of our Brunswick County public schools, which must educate all students, regardless of ability and or background, is recognized. And I think that's very, very important because our Brunswick County schools, as I said before, is the background of our school system in Brunswick County, and of course in the area of Sunset Beach also. So there would be the changes I'd recommend, and I'd be open to obviously any questions from any of you. Up here.
Anyone else got anything?
Don't have any questions.
I like the changes that you've made. There's sort of a couple of concerns that I have is, one of them is sort of why did this come to Sunset Beach, and is it really a council type of issue that we should be addressing? And there's no real good answer for that other than the president of this group sent it to us. One of the concerns traditionally over the National School Choice is in the past, it has been an effort to get public school money to help go to the school choice money And when students leave one system and move to the other is to have the money come and accompany them. So the reason I like this second whereas is it shows that we do continue to support public schools, which are critical to our system and need to be adequately funded. And within that, the idea is funding shouldn't be taken away from public schools to go into the schools covered by these choices, in my mind. There's also been a concern expressed in the past that the non-public schools don't necessarily have the same standards that they have to hold in terms of the criteria and qualifications of their teachers. They also have flexibility in denying some students to attend if they are challenges to the teaching process. So it's not a perfect system that's there. So I'm important. I like the endorsement that you've put in there that expresses our support for public schools, as well as permitting people to have a choice to go to other schools that are there. It's not a perfect system, but we need, we really need all the schools that come in under the school choice week to have at least, if not exceed, the standards of our public schools. So
I agree.
so that's just an editorial comment.
Anyone else?
I don't think, like John said, why this came to us, I have no idea. But without Mike's changes, I wouldn't have voted on this.
All right, in regards to anything from you, Tom?
Nope.
In regards to the proclamation for the National School Week choice, with addition to the things this councilman has brought forth, do I have a motion that we adopt this?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on next is to our disposition of directives. Other than I think is it the 18th, the second meeting? Or are we going to do it on the 10th, which is the first meeting? The 18th should be the second, yeah. Is that the meeting that we're going to reach out for Paul and Ken to report on the issues with golf carts? Is that what we're looking at?
We're going to push for January 10th because we'll have to go into some signs will have to be changed, at the walkways. And so there's a lot more moving parts. So if we are going to make these amendments concerning the beach strand, we're going to need to do it as quickly as possible.
So we'll address this on the 10th.
So if you just don't put a date there, and as we pull the package together, we'll let you know.
Okay. Anything else needs to be added to it?
If you want, you can put the concert series on the 10th.
Okay.
COVID-19 as well, if you want to put that in.
Anything else?
Is Tara getting close on the American Rescue Plan?
Yes, and in January she'll give you a report on that and the recycling program. She'll have those numbers, and then she'll have the financial for the fire fees as well.
There's nothing else. We'll go to the public comments. Do we have anybody? We don't. All right, now we'll be going into closed session, and there will not be any recommendations coming out of closed session. This is strictly just to discuss some issues. Do I have a motion? We go in closed session.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.